Over the years, crowdfunding sites have gained a reputation for essentially being trough-like receptacles in which various creators from all over the internet unload their hog slop into. That's not to imply that these sites are necessarily bad in any way, in fact, far from it. There can occasionally be found some truly delectable morsels amongst the swill. A half-eaten sandwich here and there, a nice ripe apple, or maybe even a succulent chicken leg or two in the mix. What I'm trying to say is that the rare diamond in the rough project makes it all worth it. But it comes with the territory that for every piece of actual food, there's a gallon of slop dumped into the trough by said creators. By which I'm referring to the con men and fraudsters looking to make a quick buck by taking shortcuts, lying, or in this case, outright plagiarizing content from other games. And so today I am, of course, going to be talking about the infamous Fur Fun KickStarter campaign, a case which perfectly demonstrates the hazards that come from backing a crowdfunded project, like spurning money away on one of those toy vending machines, being promised a cool dragon inside of a plastic ball, and instead getting a ball of dung beetle shit with yet more excrement on the inside. So, as per usual, let's head on down the rabbit hole and take a look at the disaster of Fur Fun. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Life is often busy, and sometimes the preparation, cooking, and cleaning up involved in making meals can take all of the enjoyment out of eating. But worry no longer. HelloFresh is here to provide you a ton of food options to match your lifestyle and diet. Enjoy a range of options delivered each week, delivered straight to your doorstep, pre-portioned and hassle-free, ready for you to cook and enjoy in no time. Even better still, HelloFresh are giving all subscribers free breakfast for life, which means that with every delivery, you'll enjoy a completely free breakfast item forever. Now, breakfast was already the best meal of the day, but somehow the eggheads and brainiacs at HelloFresh have defied science and the laws of nature to somehow make it even more epic. Thanks, fellas. So click the link in the description or use my code and get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active if you're in the US. Outside the US, the local discount will apply. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring the video and also to you guys. Clicking my link or using my code to subscribe to HelloFresh really helps me keep the figurative lights on in regards to the channel, so it's truly appreciated. But back to the video. Now, what is Fur Fun? Fur Fun, originally known as Kewpie Jazzy, was first uploaded to KickStarter in the September of 2016 by Spanish developer team Doki Camp, comprised of veterans of Rare Limited, who made games like Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong Country, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. Their vision was to reignite the 90s platformer nostalgia by asking for $100,000 to help complete and ship an early development build of their new 3D platforming game. The game, as you might expect, was heavily inspired by the N64's Banjo Kazooie, featuring platforming, exploration, and item collecting. Also, like Banjo Kazooie, it featured the titular aforementioned mascot duo, Kewpie, a garish-looking neon pink cat, and Jazzy, her blue parrot friend. According to the Kickstarter, Kewpie Jazzy is a 3D platformer, inspired by games of the golden era of the genre, such as Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario 64, etc. Kewpie is a cat that loves adventures. Jazzy is a pirate parrot always searching for treasure. Together, they are the perfect treasure hunting duo. Inspired by the fuzzy and colourful characters of Banjo Kazooie, Kewpie and Jazzy are here to take you on a new adventure full of exploration in gorgeous 3D worlds, with items to collect, puzzles to solve, and lots of fun in between. With our dream soundtrack, you'll be immersed in a fun and beautiful universe. Each character has their own unique special abilities. Kewpie can run really fast with her 4 legs and grab branches with her tail, while Jazzy can fly, glide, or help Kewpie jump higher. With their abilities combined, they can reach all new heights. As for the actual plot synopsis, I do remember reading somewhere that it revolved around the titular duo reclaiming their stolen goods from the antagonist of the game, but that's about it. It's not even mentioned in the Kickstarter page itself. So the impression I got is that the further the project developed, the less the devs actually cared about the story and instead wanted to focus on the gameplay first and foremost, which is fair enough. However, the brief plot summary becomes increasingly ironic the more you learn about the project. The introductory video featured a closer look at some of the gameplay and animations, which looked a little bit rough, especially this spin attack here. Yikes. It was clear that the dev team behind it weren't exactly the most experienced, despite being veterans from Rare. Although it didn't look fantastic, the basic concept, design, and campaign goals looked pretty promising. And for an audience that had been starved of good 3D platforming games for about 15 years, most could overlook these flaws. However, there was just one small problem. While the Kickstarter page did look pretty good, there was just something that looked a little too familiar about it. And no, I'm not talking about the Banjo Kazooie influence. As it would soon be revealed, large portions of the game were directly stolen from Yooka Laylee's Kickstarter, in what I can only assume to be an attempt to recreate the success of their Kickstarter. Now, I'll touch on it a bit more as the video progresses, but if you don't know, Yooka Laylee was another concurrent Kickstarter campaign, also being a 3D platformer, also heavily inspired by Banjo Kazooie. But this isn't where these similarities would end. Kewpie Jazzy's campaign featured headers with exactly the same names as that of Yooka Laylee's, with changes only to the font and colour, as well as swapping out Yooka and Laylee for the Kewpie Jazzy mascots. Obviously this is suspicious, but it wasn't exactly damning proof. But where it does become a little more obvious and borderline comical is where Kewpie Jazzy stole lines directly from Yooka Laylee. Lines such as, "Isn't X amount of money a little cheap for the game you're promising?" Indeed it is. And least subtly of all, this last line at the bottom. However, this extra money can be used by us to hire a few more talented people, get the game done sooner, and allow us to commit to more features and platforms too. Remember how I mentioned that the plot synopsis would become increasingly ironic? Well, it's probably starting to become obvious why. Now, I'm not justifying stealing in any capacity, but if you're going to do it, why make it so obvious? Couldn't they have at least reworded it? Well, apparently according to Doki Camp, once people began to notice these similarities, they claimed they were just placeholders to get the Kickstarter, started. Kickstarted, I suppose. Well, okay fellas, you're off the hook this time, you cheeky fucking bastards. Just as long as you don't steal anything else. I'm going to give you one guess as to what Doki Camp stole next. You're probably not going to be able to guess, so I'm just going to give you a clue. It's a character. Any guesses? It's Timon from the Lion King. I told you wouldn't be able to get it.
Jambay the meerkat. He's really funny and a loyal friend.
Fuck.
This IP theft didn't go unnoticed, however, with news outlets and the wider gaming community becoming increasingly aware of the game's similarities to Yooka Laylee amongst other IPs, slowly becoming more and more certain that Kewpie Jazzy was all just some big elaborate scam. But was it really just a scam? Well, that would become clearer over time. For now, the only thing known for sure was that due to the scam paranoia, a mix of plagiarism, lack of advertising, and a general lack of polish, on the 8th of November 2016, the campaign fell extremely short of its funding goal, only having made around £552 or $716, with just 36 likely very regretful backers. So there we have it. Despite an iconic legacy and an overwhelming demand for a fresh new 3D platformer franchise, Kewpie Jazzy just didn't make the cut, and so slowly fell into obscurity. Or at least it would have done, if not for the sudden involvement of a man named Dallas. But who is this Dallas? Well, that's both a very simple and very difficult answer. The simple answer is that Dallas is a Spanish YouTuber with a combined total of around 15 million subscribers across his 4 channels. I'll dive deeper into the lore and mind-bending controversies of Mr. Dallas here soon, but for now all you need to know is that he has a very big online presence. Now, it's unclear exactly why, but for some reason in early 2017, Dallas joined the Kewpie Jazzy project and gave the game a new lease of life by bringing the game to Steam Early Access. Between the speculation of both myself and others, it seems Dallas paid the studio to become its director, and probably felt the game would be something he could sell using the reach and engagement of his audience. But the details are a little hazy, so remember that this is all just a theory. It's also very possible that Dallas just thought the game looked cool and wanted to get involved. Maybe he was just a big Banjo Kazooie fan, who knows. But after this point, the whole project began descending into a sense of madness. The Twitter account started posting in Spanish and became hostile to other users, even to the extent of insulting them. More on that in a bit. Also around this time, the game saw some major rebranding, going from being called Kewpie Jazzy to the new title, Fur Fun, possibly to differentiate itself from Yooka Laylee. The models and general look of the game also had an overhaul, most notably to Kewpie herself, who went from being a cartoony bright pink to a rather creepy looking tuxedo cat with pink body markings and the most erect tail I've ever seen in my life. Slowly, players would start to trickle in, helped in large capacity by the attention Dallas gave it on his second channel, What the Game. But the game itself still largely didn't look great, and feedback from the player base really started to reflect the poor gameplay. But here's the thing, the sheer fact that I know most players didn't like the game is in itself an absolute miracle. But why exactly? Well, the Steam review pages for the game is now completely defunct, and even video game news outlets which had published negative reviews quickly took down their reviews mere hours after publishing them, all in an attempt to hide negative feedback. So, what was happening? Well, it turned out Dallas had been handing out Steam keys for Fur Fun to his followers, likely in order to encourage positive reviews and get the game some traction. Nothing wrong with that, but for those unwise enough to indulge their freedom of speech and give any form of negative review, they would soon find themselves swiftly banned from the Steam discussions, with both their Steam keys for Fur Fun and their negative reviews deleted shortly after. But if they were lucky, they'd even receive a personal, tailored mental breakdown from Dallas himself. Most notably, Mellow Online, known for his role as head of the Steam group Guardians of Greenlight, which was known for calling attention to dodgy games, was promptly banned for his bad review, and would call Dallas out directly on Twitter for doing so. Similar users who flamed Dallas or the game on Twitter would receive immature retaliations from Dallas, even going so far as to personally insult some users. Oof. Little one, with that profile pic you must leave all the woman crazy. Grr. I would worry about these shit models, the ragdoll and the invisible walls of the game, and not that much about insulting. That has solutions. Your sex appeal doesn't. Do you know what else doesn't have a solution? You making a fool of yourself internationally, making a fool of myself internationally, or a very elaborate plan where even you took the bait. Poor little one, he has so much to learn. Now, researchers and scientists are still unclear as to what this elaborate plan is, but I'm sure Dallas is just playing the long game and waiting for the right time to reveal what it is. But I have a feeling we're going to be waiting for quite a while. However, Torg here was absolutely right. Dallas was making a fool of himself internationally, and his childish reactions to constructive feedback rapidly tanked the game's reputation. As for some of the video game news outlets I mentioned earlier, that's a little more unclear. Spanish video game site Zona Red took down their negative review of the game not long after having published it. The thread I got this information from claimed he probably threatened them. Now, the original poster probably meant he legally threatened them, but it's a bit unclear, so I guess it remains a mystery. Dallas would also go on to file copyright claims against YouTube creators who had given the game any form of bad review. Now, considering Dallas himself is a YouTuber, this was a particularly low blow, not only censoring the truth, but crippling a source of income that these creators relied on to continue doing their job. But the controversy doesn't end there. In fact, far from it. But the next controversy was a bit of a return to form, as it was revealed that the devs had stolen yet more assets from other properties. In some footage uploaded by Dallas himself on his second channel on the 13th of Feb 2017, it can clearly be seen that the game is using edited Super Mario coins as well as gold from Minecraft as the in-game currency. But as mentioned in this thread, we can see the icons were changed in this Jim Sterling video uploaded on the 23rd of February 2017, now using its own original design, as far as I'm aware. So, credit where it's due, at least it was quickly changed, but by no means should have been in a product that's being sold, as selling other people's assets is very, very illegal. However, this was just a drop of water in the larger controversy of fur fun, and was quickly overshadowed by a very similar discovery some players had made inside the files of the game, around the 20th of February 2017. Once again, it had to do with the game stealing assets. As it was revealed, Fur Fun wasn't just a homage to Banjo Kazooie, but it was directly stealing assets from the game. Yes, I'm not fucking joking. Sound files such as Tootie's theme and the Mad Monster Mansion were found within the game files. They hadn't even been renamed to at least try and look convincing. If Yooka Laylee, The Lion King, Mario and even Minecraft wasn't enough, they also felt the need to borrow directly from a game they cared to love. Actually insane. Truly though, the most insane part was not the theft itself, but the excuses and backtracking from Dallas following the exposure of his apparent theft. At first, Dallas claimed the files were due to Grant Kirkhope's involvement in the project. If you don't know, Grant Kirkhope was the genius behind the soundtrack of Banjo Kazooie, and according to Dallas, was also doing the music for Fur Fun. However, Kirkhope adamantly denied this, claiming that while he was approached to do the score for the game, he didn't end up joining the team, as he was already busy with another project, that being Yooka Laylee. You just cannot make it up. Amazingly, Kirkhope's tweets announcing that he wouldn't be doing the game's score was how the Fur Fun devs actually found out about his departure from the project. Some sources claim that Kirkhope had sent Fur Fun an email prior, but they simply hadn't read it. In typical Dallas fashion, he took to Twitter to accuse Kirkhope of lying, and his proof was an excerpt of an interview where Kirkhope himself claims he didn't work on the game due to his preoccupation with Yooka Laylee, literally proving that Kirkhope wasn't lying. I don't exactly know what Dallas was trying to prove with this. There's some more back and forth debating between Kirkhope and Fur Fun, with the latter accusing Kirkhope of claiming he would be part of the project, and was written into the game's budget, saying it's too late to change it at this point. But from what I could tell, there never was a binding contract or obligation tying Kirkhope to the game. But to return to the main point, it seemed the blame could not be placed on Kirkhope for the existence of the Banjo Kazooie files inside the game. Even if he was working on the project, it didn't give them the legal entitlement to use any of his past work within the game. And so, days later, Dallas would backtrack and once again contradict himself by claiming the image of the files was a fake. But it didn't take long for players to port the audio into Audacity and find that surprise, surprise, they were in fact the exact same audio files. By doing this, the community activated the further damage control glitch, which spawned in a third excuse from Dallas, who now claimed that the files were just placeholders and weren't even playable, despite the fact they looked very playable and were playable as proven by the community. So, with Fur Fun's reputation tarnished even further, and Grant Kirkhope now sufficiently alienated from helping the project ever again, the game would need a new composer. Well, luckily for Dallas, him and the team had a secret composer hidden up their sleeve the whole time, that being at RazMusicSongs on Twitter, or rather just RazMusic. RazMusic worked for the project for a while, and had more or less completed a full score for the game. However, in typical Fur Fun fashion, something just had to go wrong. Amidst the chaos of all the other controversies, RazMusic had come out with a shocking revelation, which quickly began to spiral into a noticeable trend. RazMusic, despite contributing the whole soundtrack for the game, hadn't been paid for his work. Very bizarre considering the fact that Fur Fun lauded the soundtrack as a big part of the experience. Because of this, RazMusic announced that they would no longer be working with the Fur Fun team. It was only after the public attention from this had resulted in further backlash to Dallas that he was forced to pay Raz. Why didn't Dallas and the team just pay RazMusic for their work? After all, Dallas was bragging that the game was doing extremely well on Steam Early Access. Well, it wasn't just RazMusic who hadn't been paid. 2D artist Adrian Gonzalez had gone a significant amount of time without being paid for his work. He told TechRaptor they ordered some illustrations for the game from me of the cat, the parrot, and a background. They ordered those from me around the summer of 2016 or thereabouts. It was 150 euros. The characters didn't cost me much, but the background did, and he still hasn't paid me for the work. If the project was doing so well, why not just pay the workers? Well, that will become clear soon. Either way, and I feel like a broken record for saying this, but it wasn't a good look for the game. I want to reiterate that when I first heard about this story, I thought it just boiled down to the devs stealing assets from other games, and oh how wrong was I. And somehow we're not even at the end just yet. In fact, it wasn't until right before I recorded this that I discovered the utter nonsense surrounding the game's age rating. Considering the game had a range of explicit language, plus a sex joke about the sea swallowing, what do you think it was rated? An 18? Perhaps even a 16? Maybe even a 12? Nah, fuck it. Peggy 3. Why not? This had a fair few people questioning if Dallas even understood what a Peggy rating even was. The overall point is, Fur Fun had pretty much every controversy and issue you can think of, which takes us to the final stop on this frankly exhausting but equally hilarious tale, that being Dallas's infamous Reddit AMA. I suppose Dallas thought he could do some damage control and salvage some of his reputation by addressing some pressing concerns of the English community. However, it seems he was totally unprepared for just how justifiably persecuting some of the questions were. With some questions asking why he blocked users on Twitter for constructive feedback, grilling him for using stolen assets, as well as more users mentioning the lewd content in the game and once again questioning his understanding of an age rating. In typical Dallas fashion, once the heat got too much for him, he nuked his account and scorched the replies from the face of the earth. But fortunately, a few users catalogued his responses on his Steam discussion version of the AMA. Dallas denied claims of stolen assets, but generally just responded to people in a typical unprofessional manner. To add insult to injury, he didn't even share what his favourite pasta is. Irredeemable. And with that, we arrive finally at the end of our turbulent roller coaster of fur fun controversies. So, this all begs the ultimate question: what happened to fur fun? Despite Dallas's claims to the contrary, it seems he was ultimately successful in tanking the reputation of the game to an irreparable degree. According to Steam database, at its peak the game had just 51 concurrent players, 1,051 followers, and 9,000 total owners, likely a far cry from the expectations of Dallas and the team. And not long after the whirlwind of controversies, the game was removed from Steam Early Access. Now, I don't think the game ultimately was intended to be a scam, but between bad PR and the seemingly suspicious copycat nature of the project, the game seemed like it just couldn't win the hearts of players. On the other hand, despite mixed receptions, Yooka Laylee is seen as largely successful today, selling over 1 million copies and getting some pretty good review scores. As for Dallas, he's still uploading on YouTube to this day, but has amassed a series of other controversies under his belt. I don't want to get into specifics, partly because we'd be here all day, but also because I don't want to make any unsubstantiated claims without researching them first, but feel free to have a look at them yourself. There's even a case in which he threatened to sue Notch, which is pretty entertaining. I want to be clear that this isn't a takedown piece on Dallas or any of the devs. Clearly there were a lot of talented people on the team who ultimately got snubbed by a mismanaged game and poor PR. As for Dallas, hopefully one day he'll learn from his mistakes and can start to change his reputation for the better, but considering his recent actions, it doesn't seem that's happening anytime soon. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's all for this video. See you all next time, and remember, Poptopus is one of the many characters that will help you.